morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to J&J Tabletop. For this video, please make sure that your dice trays are stowed in their upright position, and that any carry-on items such as character sheets, dice, or pencils, or anything like that is stowed securely under the seat in front of you. I hope you're not afraid of heights today as we travel through the planes and into the multiverse. Today on J&J Tabletop. Stay tuned.
Hello there and welcome back to this J&J Tabletop video. My name is Jake and with me, of course, as always, is Josh. Josh, when I think about the multiverse, all the different planes of existence, that gets my creative juices thinking about just like the very foundations of the campaign world that I'm either adventuring in, or if I'm the DM, I'm creating, maybe it's a homebrew setting that I'm doing, whatever that may be. It makes me think of like, how did this all start? Is there something bigger than the deities out there that got it going? And I just kind of wonder, like, what's your process for creating your own like multiverse? Like, do you have like minimum requirements? I know the DMG has some stuff there, but I'm curious about your approach.
I like to think about the campaign world, think about what kind of monsters and creatures you might find there, and then think about like where they might have come from. Fiends, celestials, elementals, deities, whatever you want to call them. Where people go when they die, where people come from before they're born, whatever that might mean.
Is there a giant stork that brings them?
Is there a giant stork? Oh man, I love that.
Let's do that. You can have that in your game.
You could have that in your game, and that could be a mid-tier planar adventure. You know, that there's problems on the stork plane, but you know,
Yes.
but like those kind of things, right? You know, whether it's something silly like that, and you're just having serious conversations about, or silly explanations for serious things in the world, right? Like, where do babies come from? Well, like originally they come from storks. That's where the soul comes from. You know, it's some sort of
Yes.
like magical stork
Yes.
traveling across the astral plane. Where are fiends born? Where are celestials born? All of that kind of stuff. If it exists in your world, there should be a place for it. You don't necessarily have to figure that out right away, but this is what we're talking about today. So we're talking about it. So once you start answering those questions and deciding what kind of planes you have and who lives on them and all of those sorts of things, you do need to find a structure for it, right? Like you have to decide how it fits together.
Usually the kind of the most default setting and way that is viewed is the Great Wheel, which there is an image in the appendix section of the player's handbook for 5th edition. For some reason, they don't have that in the DMG. That's a head scratcher if you ask me, but nonetheless, that's where you find it. Or maybe you find it on D&D Beyond. We'll probably have some links in the description below, so you should check that out. And maybe while you're there, hit the like button, subscribe, and say hello to Josh and give me a thumbs down emoji. I don't know. Whatever you want to do. The Great Wheel has a few different categories. So we'll talk about the most common one for any adventure is the material plane. And then, of course, you have the Echo Planes, the Feywild, and the Shadowfell. And John from Black Dragon RPG, I think he had a really fun idea in which he has the Shadowfell and the Feywild kind of be the same plane, which is kind of fun that you could structure it and tinker with this however you like. This is kind of like your own mad scientist laboratory. And I think there's a ton of really interesting ways to do that. You could have the Seelie and the Unseelie court. It's like you got the Feywild and the Shadowfell warring after each other. Maybe once there's illusions that kind of lift and it's like, oh my god, it's actually the Shadowfell and I didn't know. It's just this crazy thing.
It's almost as if it's just the Echo Plane, and the Feywild and the Shadowfell are descriptions for those different sections of the Echo Plane. I love that concept of, especially when it's like the Fey, that like everything is nice and whimsical and fun and oh it's so good, it's great, whatever. But then it's like it's hiding something sinister a lot of the time.
Yes.
So the sinister thing that it's hiding is just the fact that it's not even the Feywild, it's the Shadowfell. Like I love that.
The whole time, Josh.
I've been here the whole time. If you know what that's from, throw it in the comments.
And then moving out from the material plane and its echoes, or the echo plane, if you're using the idea Josh just said, you have the inner planes, which really, this is where your elemental section is. You have the plane of air, the plane of earth, the plane of fire, plane of water, and of course the elemental chaos that surrounds them. There's some interesting info in the DMG on that. We may go into making separate videos for them. If that's something that interests you, definitely let us know. We would love to make some content specifically because you asked us. But I think
content to make.
it is that's the best kind. But I think this is obvious going back to like a place for where your elementals come from. This naturally seems like the fit for that, unless you really want to just be weird about it. Outside of the inner planes, of course, then you're moving to the outer planes, and this is where alignment kind of has a tendency to come into play. If you're familiar with my stance on alignment, I think it's something that still has value in your games. And this is a place that it really can, because you can have a plane for every single alignment that just kind of surrounds all of it. You just set it up. I would say watch this alignment video that we made, because it kind of has an axis that shows you exactly what that could look like for you. But this is also a place where you start to get into where fiends could come from, celestials could come from. This can be a place where people go when they die, or maybe they're hanging out before the stork sends them to the material plane. This is the place where different philosophical shadings between things, you can combine them, and this is the good plane, and in the good plane you have lawful good, neutral good, chaotic good. You could have evil plane, your lawful evil, neutral evil, chaotic evil. You could structure this mix and match. You don't have to have 16. You can have as many or as little as you want. You can even shake it down to 1 if you wanted, I think.
Yeah, please don't have 16. 16 is like so ridiculously unnecessary. Don't have 16.
I like
and
a
do
simpler,
whatever you want. Have
yeah,
fun, but 16 is so many.
I tend to like a simpler version of this. I would be like, I want a heaven, I want a hell. You could change that up if you like. There is inspiration for that all over religion and mythology and your own imagination. So you really can structure that however you like. Where do you think Indy's from? Mount Dogbonia?
She's from the Poppy Plane.
Puppy plane? I love that.
From the Cutieverse.
The Cutieverse.
The Cutieverse.
He's not a girl dog, Josh. It doesn't have cooties. And of course, moving out from the outer planes, you have like the outer planes, if you will, or the positive and negative planes, which is just like this extra force plane thing that just surrounds even where the deities live. Interesting to just think of a force or being or something that's just larger than the gods in your world. And then you got to get a place to get everywhere. You got the ethereal plane and the astral plane make up the transitive planes, which is just kind of like what people travel through.
The MTA planes.
Yeah, MTA planes.
Yeah.
Your planes, your trains, your automobiles.
Yeah, your automobiles.
Exactly. But that brings up an interesting point. When you're thinking about these planes and you're thinking about making it work for your game, you have to think about travel, don't you?
I think there's a lot of different ways to put them together. And it almost even ties into what you mentioned before you gave us the descriptions of each of these planes with the wheel. I wanted to call it the Wheel of Time. But the Great Wheel or the World Tree or whatever you use, one of them is literally like an endless road, and there's just stops along the road, and that's what the planes are. Like, I think the way that you have your multiverse organized also should play into how they're put together and how you might travel between them. If the material plane is connected to the echoes, whichever echoes you have, then there should be some sort of portals there, right? But I also kind of think that should like play out, like further and further. The leg bone's connected to
my mind went there too.
Whatever,
Absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't have to be linear.
Yeah. So whether it's the material planes connected to the echoes connected to the transitive or the inner or whatever. Like I like that kind of thing, but something that's going to connect all of them together. It could be some sort of portal. It could be spells, which the one that we were thinking of requires a forked metal rod worth at least 250 gold pieces. But the part that I think people forget is that it is attuned to a particular plane of existence. That plane of existence that it's attuned to should probably be the one that you're able to get to. That kind of opens up a world of possibilities or a multiverse of possibilities, right? Because you could find something that's already attuned to a plane, or maybe you found your 250 gold fork, and now you need to find someone who can attune it. You need to find some sort of planar being. Where do you find a
Yeah.
creature like that? How do you get it to do something for you? I tend to like those sort of more complicated steps, rituals, all that kind of stuff, just to make it a little bit more interesting, a little bit more memorable, and more important too, right? Like it's not like it's just some component that you found. Now it's something that you took and you had to do something. Like it
Yeah, it
means
has real
something. It's
value.
important. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
exactly.
You could almost have like this nexus really where maybe they all kind of connect into this one. It's almost like a grand central station where we're New Yorkers,
Yes.
so like you could think of
Yes.
that. I think of like games like Chrono Trigger back when it's like the dude is just there guarding all the portals to different times. Who knows? Maybe that person's like Charon guarding the river Styx. You know, if you ever play Hades or just interested in Greek mythology, there's a ton of interesting ways, and Planar Travel is such a story rich. Oh, it's just you could just there's lore just oozing out of its pores. Like you could talk about the how all the cosmos in your world were created. This is a way you can do that.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I'm totally gonna forget the guy's name, but in Thor, the guy that was the guardian of that, it was like a rainbow road. I'm thinking of Mario Kart now, but like, it was like
uh,
it went everywhere.
wow, I was about to call it the Allspark. I think that's from the Transformers movies with Shia
we don't we don't
LaBeouf.
talk about Shia LaBeouf here. All that to
uh,
say, there's a ton of interesting ways that you could do planar travel on, but besides just spells, like yes, that's for high level play, but maybe you have planar travel for low level play for some reason. Who knows? Maybe your characters got killed and now they gotta fight and earn their way back, like in
love
Theros
that.
or something. There could be tons of things you could do.
It's like the practical aspect of the lore that you're creating. Everything up until this point is lore, and it's not going to matter until there's ways to travel to those places. Whether it's crazy gonzo, you have to give this cat some certain drug to go to sleep or whatever, and then pop in its dream, or take a mushroom and it'll take you to the astral plane until you wake up, or go down a literal rabbit hole, or like however you want to do it. Anything goes. It's really easy to just get excited about different ways to make that work and to really just let your creativity shine. Definitely recommend trying it out. We have a video on the Feywild actually. So if you want to know more, we have a lot of videos on the Feywild. So if you want to know more about that specific plane, you could find information there. I would love to hear about whatever multiverse you set up for your world, whether you use the Great Wheel, the Burning Wheel, the World Tree, whatever you use. Like I would love to hear more about that. So let us know in the comments. Join the Discord and talk to us there, and click one of these here videos here so you could you see more. You're muted.
Dang it, I was gonna say watch the Faye videos, but now they won't know.
Dang. I want you to watch the Faye videos.
Z come from where Indy comes from.